our next question, we'll try to go a little bit more fast because we have to finish this as soon as possible. So I think we are running a little late, a little behind time. Okay. So our next question is, area-based development and pan-city development are part of which of these missions? So when you are telling pan-city, it's a larger scale. So so we have to see that. And here, if you the smart city mission is basically which is done in for an area-based and as well as pan city. Okay, and the other options, digital India mission. So when you are talking about India, national level, so it is basically it would be pan India, right? So this also is sometimes, some questions have come up in GATE where they ask pan India, which are the missions are running pan India. So where you have to see that the word India or Bharat will be there, and this is for the entire national level. Now, pan city development, area-based development is usually done as part of the smart city mission. Okay, just give me a time and wait, yeah. Okay, so this is Swachh Bharat mission is for Clean India, and digital is for internet, Wi-Fi. You are aware of that. So these are not done on an area based as an area based or a pan city development. Instead, for both, if you look at this, both of them are part of only the smart city mission, which is done on an area based development, and also pan city development. Okay, so that is what I would say for this question. So if you just read through this, the strategic components of area-based development in smart city, the city improvement, city renewal, and city extension, plus a pan city initiative in which smart solutions are applied. Okay, so there are certain specific things which have to be done for a particular city. That retrofitting could be for a specific area, right? And then there is smart solutions which are to be launched in the entire city, or you can say that, or which are applied in larger parts of the city. So that is the pan city part of the smart city mission. Okay, so let's go to the next question. Okay, sorry. Okay, this is the question. At what rate the upfront subsidy is provided by EWS and LIG for loans up to 6 lakh in affordable housing through credit-linked subsidy scheme of PMAY? Okay, so this is a question. Again, here we can take the general rule that we normally avoid the highest and the lowest units, and we can just eliminate these and have our middle two as the options. And out of 6% and 6.5%, you must be aware which should be the correct. 6 is repeating twice, so it's only given to confuse you, and 0.5 is again given twice. So you can make a guess that the answer is 6.5 because both the things have been given twice to confuse you. But actually, if you just think in try to use your logic, it might just help you out for solving such questions. Okay, and here also our middle two concept is working. So you will see that this works for a lot of cases, but it also is not a sure shot thing that we would say that you should always look for it. But you can make this assumption sometimes when you are, when you don't have much questions attempted. Okay, let's go to the next question. We will run fast now. Okay, so this is 6.5% is the answer as a subsidy given under the credit link subsidy scheme. Now, next is select the right option representing strategic components arranged in ascending order of specified minimum area under smart city mission. Okay, now here also, if you read the question thoroughly, it is minimum area under smart city mission. Okay, so ideally any government when they are when they are having a mission and they want to allocate areas and for different kind of development. So here you can see it is redevelopment, greenfield development, and retrofitting. So they would ideally like to do minimum disturbance in the area. Okay, so when you are talking about retrofitting, okay, Retrofitting doesn't need a lot of things. Whatever is already in place, just need to retrofit it. So that is actually the thing which they want to give the maximum area allocation for. Greenfield development would be the second less minimum area allocated for it. And redevelopment, which disturbs a lot of things. You have to relocate, do a lot of things, therefore doing redevelopment of a particular area. So this has the least area allocation. Okay. This has the least area allocation. So when you're talking about minimum area under smart city mission, redevelopment has the least, greenfield development is somewhere in the middle, and retrofitting is given the higher preference. Okay, so a lot of area is subjected to retrofit. Okay, now let's quickly move on to the next question. Okay, now this national urban mission. So again, I think we just saw this mission sometime back, and I told you that you have to remember that this is the name, and this mission short form is this. Okay, SPMRM, Shyama Prasad Mukherjee Urban Mission. This national is given. It's also known as this particular mission. Okay, so the full form, you should like full name of this mission, you should also know. Okay, now let's just go to the next question quickly because we are a little short of time. How many mega schemes for revamping urban India were launched by PM Narendra Modi? So so if you just know this, there are 3 big projects which was in 2015. PM Modi had launched these 3 flagship schemes: Smart Cities Mission, Amrut, and the PMAY. Okay, so these 3 are the main. So if you know this, then the answer would be 3 here. Again, the middle 2 option is working correctly. Now, next topic is slum and squatter settlement theories, policies, and schemes. 10 questions from this. Let's have a look. The concept of slum networking aims to promote. Okay, so we're talking about slum networking. So rehabilitation becomes eliminated, improvement of physical network within the slum area. Now, this is only to confuse because of the word networking, but networking and network, generally don't sync together. Network is, this is the road network we're talking about, and here it is, slum networking. And here the word holistic tells you, okay, we will come to that, but first, social and physical improvement. Okay, so this also is only to confuse you with the term networking. But if you look at the second option, holistic development and conformity with the infrastructure of the city. Okay, so when you are basically trying to connect the slum to the entire city is what we mean by slum networking. Okay, networking is to just symbolize the fact that city is getting connected. It's like slum is able to be well connected with the cities. Okay, so these are only words to confuse you here with the word networking. And you would if you read these, it would not be, if you just think logically, you will feel that these could be only, options to confuse and not really what a concept would be like. It would be to promote something. Okay, okay, so let's just move on to the next one. NBC, there was only one question in the 2018 paper. Let's see what was that question. National Building Code of India. It's a very simple question. A lot of the building codes in India are all given by BIS. Okay, and especially also the word building here tells you that it's not something to do with town planners. Okay, so town planning wise, if NBC code would not be ideally be given by any planning organization. Okay, so that could be also one thing to eliminate these 2 options, and then you would only be left with these 2. But BIS is generally the one which gives out most of the codes. Okay, and it was given in 2005. Now this also could be something you should remember. Sometimes years are also asked.
Now it is, I would like to add, now it is updated and a new code has been published last year. I think 2018 or 17. You could check now. The NBC News in 2 volumes is being circulating around.
Yes. Okay, so let's go to the next thing. And now just remember all these points about the NBC
NBC 16,
and
right? This one, NBC 16.
16, right? Okay.
the latest NBCs. Let's move ahead.
URDPFI guidelines. Now this is more important because we're looking at a planning paper, and there were 4 questions that came from URDPFI guidelines. Again, something that we have already provided to you. You might be having it with you. Just go through it once and let's see the questions. Okay, the first question: which of these is a comparatively long-term plan? Okay, so long-term plan is the keyword here. Following is a goals. Okay, so basically this you can directly look at these and can tell land use plan. All the other options are not even development plans. So if you just know that perspective plan could be the long-term plan that we have. Okay, so written document.
It is also a get repeated question, but the options are different. In the gate options, I think the options are like perspective plan, zonal plan, regional plan. Okay, so here the options are much simpler than that. Only the perspective plans is related to the long-term goals. Okay, let's move on to the next question.
Okay. If the following constitutes a component under physical infrastructure, so physical infrastructure is the keyword here, and you know that physical infrastructure basically includes the services and water supply, sewage, solid waste management, drainage, and all those networks. And services part of the infrastructure. And the social infrastructure includes schools and colleges, also schools and hospitals and colleges and universities. So those education and healthcare could come under social. So if the question is about social, you would be able to answer that as well. Now let's move to the next question. At which stage of the development plan preparation, suggestions and objections are invited from general public? Okay, so the first thing is that conceptual development plan. We can easily eliminate this. Any suggestion or objection or any stakeholder consideration cannot happen at the conceptual level or after the final plan is developed. So you may have a guess between these two, but it's normally done. Objections are only invited when already you have a plan in place. That is a draft plan. So after the draft development plan is placed, you normally have your general public invitation for any objections. Okay, so similarly, just like DBA has invited for 2041 master plan, right? So any plan when it is done in a draft, when it's in draft stage, it's open for them. It's then open to the public for any objections before the final plan is put in place. Okay, let's go to the next question. URDPFI guidelines, the developed area average densities for large cities and hilly areas. Okay, so now here also the trick would work. One is middle two. Okay, and the second is that it's told large cities and hilly areas. So it's not small cities and hilly areas. So the lowest limit, anyways, we normally exclude the lowest limit, but we can think that if it is going to be within these two, then we should take the slightly higher range because it's for large cities and hilly areas. They might give you just to confuse. Okay. So here the key term is that it shouldn't be too high because it's a hilly area. Shouldn't be too low also because we are talking about large cities. So it has to be somewhere here, 60 to 90, or you might get confused with this, but normally the middle, if we just go by the middle two, then we only have 60 to 90 pph with us. Okay, so that's the answer. Let's go to the next question. Okay, so we have now urban ecology, sustainable development, and bylaws, green rating, and other things. Let's have a look. Okay, so which of these is not a green building rating system? Okay, this is a question that comes repeatedly in the GATE paper as well. Different forms of this question. Okay.
LEED is the most common leadership in energy and environment design. I think most of us among us have heard about it. So from this we can also understand that double is only in the 3 options, and the question has been asked about which is not a green building code. ECBC's energy conservation building code. This is also one of the very popular code. So I think most of us have known about this answer, ECBC.
This is a code, not a green building rating system. Okay, and this not has to be, you have to be careful with this because sometimes you just see, you forget about this not and you answer the, the first option that you see on the paper. Okay, so that is not to be done. You should be careful with the question, and so of course ECBC is the answer. Now let's go to the next question. Okay, these are some of the other ratings. You can read it.
Please read about it.
Yeah. Minimum points required for Griha certification. Now this question has come in both ISRO paper and GATE paper. Okay, so again, if you go with the middle two option, okay, you can try to figure out what the answer could be. Here it is 50. Okay, so in this case it is 50. The minimum points required for Griha certification is 50. Now let's move on to the next one. Okay, so so this is the rating system. Minimum 50 is required for a single star. And sometimes they might ask you for a different range. You can also keep in mind that. Total score is 100, which is actually responsible for global warming phenomena. So now they are asking what is responsible. Okay, so you have to be careful with that. So you know that what global warming, these are the effects, ocean level rise or the polar ice caps melting. Ozone layer and greenhouse gases. Ozone layer is not responsible. Greenhouse gases are what is responsible for trapping the heat, sun's heat in the Earth's atmosphere, right? So if it does, the sun's heat is trapped and it doesn't let us go, it just stays here and increases the temperature, and that's what global warming effect is. Okay, so
carbon dioxide, water vapor is one of the major greenhouse gases.
Carbon dioxide, yeah, methane is also a major contributor to greenhouse gases.
When the Earth was in ice age, these greenhouse gases helped the Earth's surface to evolve to a temperature which is livable for the humans. Okay, but nowadays, because of the more volume of these greenhouse gases, these entraps heat and led to the phenomenon of global warming. Ozone layer is depleted by the ozone depleting substances from the air conditioning and refrigeration. You have heard of this term in Montreal Protocol. Okay. You can read about it in detail.
Yes. Okay, so there are a few things you can also check out this. Okay. Montreal Protocol. Now let's move to the next question. So greenhouse gases, and these gases which I talked about are the responsible gases for global warming. Now which of the following generates heat island? Okay, so if you're aware of the heat island concept, it says that mostly developed areas or urban areas which have a lot of concrete development. Okay, so they basically make the surface even more they heat not surface, like they create a heat island.
The concrete absorbs
they absorb they absorb the heat.
Sorry to interrupt in between. Concrete absorbs more heat. In the daytime they might emit a lot of heat. Usually it is a very close high density concrete development. So when it absorbs a lot of heat, and if we do the infrared mapping of those areas, you can clearly see the heat emerging of those areas in respect to the other areas which emits very less amount of heat. Like villages where there is no construction, you will not appear in the infrared mapping. There is no heat will be appear. So from our understanding also, if there is a high concrete development in an area, suppose we take Gurgaon or something, there is a lot of you can see a lot of heat emerge from those areas. So temperature of normally these areas are higher than the other areas. So we can quickly go for the answers of urban areas, because these three options are related to the ecosystem, energy. So ecosystems, wetlands has definite ecosystems. So these are the environment supportive ecosystem: coastal areas, forest areas, and wetlands. So those who don't know about this term, they might confuse this island term with the coastal areas, but this is not. So this question might confuse you. So you have a clear understanding of this term, heat island. This is also a GATE repeated, and I think several other competition exam repeated questions.
Right.
Okay. Let's move on to the next question.
Let's move to the next one. Okay, so now just give me 1 second. Okay. So star rating of an air conditioner is determined by its, okay. So here, when you talk about star rating, and you know that it's going to be related to power consumption, right? It's going to be related to power consumption in the sense that it like the more stars you have, the lesser energy it consumes, right? That is the overall idea. So here, cooling capacity and power of compressor are not an option for this. Power consumption and energy efficiency ratio. Okay, so when you have energy efficiency ratio, that is basically calculated. EER is calculated. I'll just show you the formula and you'll be able to make sense out of this. So amount of heat removed per hour divided by the power consumed. So star rating cannot directly relate with power consumption. Otherwise, it will be directly proportional, right? If the more star rating, the more power consumption. That is not the case. So it's a ratio that is basically found by telling how much amount of heat has been removed per hour per unit of the power that is consumed. Okay. So the more the rating, the lesser power consumption we have. And okay, so that is it. This is for power consumption. ER is the determining factor. Now let's move to the next question. Match the planning documents in group 1 with their governance schemes in group 2. Okay, so again, if you just remember, sometime back we were discussing about cluster development. So if you remember, that is relevant. Okay, so if you just remember few of these, and sometimes some questions within the same paper also connect back. So you might be, suppose you are able to solve this question, you'll be able to solve some other questions if they have appeared before. If something about PMAY is actually available, like housing for all is PMAY, we discussed already. City livelihood, if you know the full form of NULM, this is National Urban Livelihood Mission. So this is also to do with city livelihood. And then you can just make your guess directly, even if you know at least one or two of these answers. Okay, so the correct answer is D. Now let's move to the next question. From the perspective of sustainability, the number of people an ecosystem can support indefinitely is called. Okay, so I think most of you must be aware, this is called as carrying capacity.
Carrying capacity of an ecosystem is like an ecosystem has certain amount of environmental resources. Okay, so the ecosystem can handle a certain limit of the people in an ecosystem to which it can handle. Beyond it, the ecosystem will not able to sustain. So ecosystem will start dying. So this kind of stage is called overshooting. So if in 1 year, if carrying capacity could be asked, in the another year, overshooting could be asked. So you should remember also this term, overshooting. Let's move on to the next question.
Watershed is an important parameter in spatial planning. It stands for, okay, so if you are aware of the watershed, what a watershed actually is, it's a common area where the water gets collected. Okay, even if you just know this basic idea of what a watershed generally, general meaning is. So it is to do with the whatever rainfall or whatever water is there that gets collected, and because of slope or gradients in the land surface, it gets collected towards one side, and that's where we see a watershed or a water catchment or catchment area that is developed. So this is what a watershed is. So it stands for, let's see, what are the options? Areas having different drainage. So different drainage, no, not really an option. Common is, we have a keyword here, common drainage. An area devoid of drainage. Now, watershed and area devoid of drainage, I don't think this anyway relates. Areas taken up for linking rivers. Okay, so this, I think this is also something very not really linking with the concept of watershed. Okay, so if you just remember this diagram, you will know that watershed is basically where a spatial unit where the drainage, which has a common drainage. Okay, so it all gets together at one point and a catchment area is developed.
This is a sort of watershed you can understand in those terms, like it is at the low-lying area of a city or of an area where a lot excess water or excess river streams could become as a common ditch and can collect in those areas. So in certain areas, wetland is also sort of watershed. In some areas where watershed has been filled for land, those in those areas floods is common. Okay, so we can think of a watershed as a special unit with common drainage. So all the drainage of the city, drainage is not just related to the wastewater, it is sort of all the water which is coming from river.
Drained to this.
Yeah.
Okay, so we have so that is the concept. So all the water basically gets collected here. It acts as a drainage basin. Okay, now let's move to the next question. Total amount of greenhouse gas produced in an activity usually expressed in equivalent tons of carbon dioxide. That is carbon footprint.
This is a very easy question. This term carbon footprint has been comes in a lot of architecture exams. and newspaper also it circulates around. Carbon trading, certain amount of carbon trading facilities in which those persons who emit less carbons will take carbon credit as a currency. And carbon trading is also a similar kind of phenomena. Okay, carbon sequestration is a sort of phenomenon in which carbon is taken into some rock and removed from the atmosphere. So in this question, the greenhouse gas emitted per equivalent ton of carbon dioxide is only the carbon footprint. Okay. No.
Okay, let's move to the next question. I think this so like you've got an idea about what each of these terms are. Okay, now let's move to the next. The standard safety color codes for biodegradable waste and recyclable waste. I think this is fairly easy. For biodegradable waste, it is green, and for recyclable waste, it is blue. Again, you can just go by the repetition, number of repetitions each one has. The blue is getting repeated thrice, green is repeated thrice. So green and blue, and there are two options to confuse this and this. You have to be careful while attempting. The first thing is biodegradable, so it should be green. And recyclable is coming later, so it would be blue later, not blue and green. Okay, green and blue is the answer. Okay, let's move to the next question. Which sector is the largest emitter of greenhouse gases in India? It's the electricity generation sector, right? Okay, and the energy sector is the major contributor of greenhouse gases. Okay.
Because in India, currently energy is major emitted from the thermal power plant where coal is used. Because of this usage, the electricity generation is the major emitter of greenhouse gases among all the sectors. So in the future, might be nuclear energy or the renewable energy sources surpass the coal usage, then electricity generation might reduce from the largest emitter of greenhouse gases.
Okay. Let's move to the next question. Yeah. Okay, so and just remember this. We have energy sector as a major contributor. Now, census data and definitions. According to 2011 census, approximately what percentage of Indian population lives in rural areas? Again, middle two, and then you can go ahead and this you need to know. If you do not know, then it might be not the right thing to do. But if you have less question attempt, then you can attempt this and select one of these. 69 is the correct answer. Okay, 69% is under rural areas. The next question: level of urbanization in Rajasthan. In census, as per census 2011, it's 25. Now, this is an exception to the rule that we discussed. Here, we don't have a middle two as an option. Middle two as the correct answer. But Rajasthan urbanization level is specifically low. And you saw that already we discussed that 31% is what the overall India rural area is. Okay, so you should be able to tell that level of urbanization should be lesser than this, definitely. So these are not the options. So 25 or 28, one of these should be the answer. And now it's your discretion. Okay, let's move to the next question. 25 is the answer here. Household in census operation is defined as, okay, this is something term given in the census, and to mean persons sharing common kitchen. Kitchen is this common kitchen is what has been taken as the main thing that defines a household. Okay, so for an institutional building like a hostel, it has a common kitchen, so that's one household. That's how it's been defined. To make those have a clear idea about these things. But otherwise, the other definitions will not help in being able to tell how many households are there. Okay, so the definition is given below. You can read through it. As per census 111, Nagar Panchayat referred to. Okay, so Nagar Panchayat, Nagar is urban. So you can just type of rural from here and here, urban area with the panchayat. But panchayat is something that we refer to in the village context. So again, 2 is also eliminated. We have urban area with a statutory local government. Okay, and that's the answer. Let's move to the next one. It's part of the 74th Amendment Act also. So you should be able to. Nagar Panchayat was formed under the urban area. The pollutant standard index PSI scale has span from. Okay, so here again it's an exception to the rule. Here we don't have an answer lying here, but it's actually 0 to 500. We have because it's mentioned as a span. It should be able to cover all the different categories. So that could be one way of thinking. But otherwise, 0 to 500 covers all these things. I'll just show you what these are. Okay, so there is a scale of 0 to 500. Okay. Okay, so every 100 there is a categorization that's been done in PSI. Now there are different types of air quality index. This is one of them. Okay, so there could be a different one that could have been asked.
In India, there is National Air Quality Index is used.
Yeah, normally that is used.
National Ambient Air Quality Index is used in India. National Ambient Air Quality Index.
Yes.
Let's move on to the next question.
Which of the following is not a criterion for defining urban area in India? So I think this, if you're aware of the definition of an urban area that's given, it has to do with population size. It has to do with density of population and the male working population in non-agricultural pursuits. So to define an urban area, all these three things have to be there. The definition says, it's mentioned here, it says that 5,000 number of population should be greater than 5,000. Density should be more than 400 persons per square kilometer, and 75%, more than 75 non-agricultural activities में होने चाहिए. Okay, male population. तो ये definition दिया गया है, and there's nothing to do with पक्का house. ठीक है, तो ये हमारा आंसर नॉट में आ जाए. Now let's move to the next one. Planning techniques, data collection and service. 6 question आए थे इससे. Let's see what these questions are. Aerial photography is a useful tool to obtain. Now aerial photography से हमें कुछ चीजें तो पता नहीं लगेगी. Ownership हमें पता कैसे चल जाएगा. So this is definitely not an option. Land use भी हम define करते हैं, तो it's basically from master plan से आपको पता चलता है. ठीक है, तो land use भी आपका directly आप surface को देख के आप बता नहीं सकते हो aerial photography से. Land contour, land cover basically हम aerial photography से बता पाते हैं. Green area का cover कितना है, blue water bodies और ये सब जो normal elements हैं earth surface में, we are able to identify these. ठीक है, तो ये हमारा land cover data है. ठीक है, you can read through this. A map showing all key features and characteristics of an area and serving as foundation for spatial planning. तो यहाँ पे फाउंडेशन वर्ड जो आपको है वो आपका कीवर्ड है. स्पेशल प्लानिंग स्टार्ट करने से पहले हमें एक बेस मैप रेडी करना होता है विद ऑल द बेसिक फीचर्स. दैट इंक्लूड्स, इफ यू आर अवेयर, तो आपको जितने भी बेसिक फीचर्स होती हैं सारे इसमें आपको बेस मैप में मिल जाता है. ओके, प्लानर्स को ज्यादा आइडिया होगा इसका कि most of us are planners anyway. So anyway, तो खसरा मैप तो आपको पता है कि खसरा मैप, मूसा मैप तो you don't have any idea much. बट खसरा मैप और कार्टोग्राफिक मैप का कोई यूसेज पता है. बेस मैप हमें बेसिकली एक फाउंडेशन की तरह यूज करते हैं फॉर प्लानिंग पर्पस. ठीक है, लेट्स मूव ऑन टू द नेक्स्ट क्वेश्चन. Images from which of the following satellites could be used for urban planning? This is a question that has come in GATE also. Options अलग अलग भी होते हैं कभी कभी, but this is a question that has been asked. ठीक है, INSAT हमारा वेदर के लिए यूज होता है. ठीक है, तो ये हमारा सैटेलाइट जो है अर्बन प्लानिंग के लिए वी यूज कार्टोसैट 1 का डेटा इमेजेस. ठीक है, एंड लैंडसैट 8 एंड सेंटिनल 2 आल्सो समटाइम्स वी यूज फॉर एनालिसिस ऑफ वेजिटेशन एनवायरनमेंट फ्रॉम डिफरेंट ईयर्स. ठीक है, तो इनका भी डेटा भी समटाइम्स यूज फॉर बेसिकली लैंड एंड एनवायरनमेंट वेजिटेशन के पर्पस के लिए. ठीक है, लेट्स मूव टू द नेक्स्ट क्वेश्चन. Boundaries of individual land parcels of land is precisely defined in. Land parcels का boundary, so it means basically mean कि एक plot का detail कहाँ पे मिलेगा आपको. Master plan में नहीं होता है, it's a broad document. ये भी perspective plan सबसे ज़्यादा higher level पे होता है, सबसे macro level पे होता है, तो इसमें तो बिल्कुल भी इसका कुछ नहीं होगा. Comprehensive development plan also doesn't have it, and master plan level तक भी आपको ये detail नहीं मिलती है. Zonal plan जहाँ पे एक पर्टिकुलर जोन, फॉर एग्जांपल दिल्ली का जोन है और जोन कोई सा भी जोन है, देन यू हैव ईच एंड एवरी पार्सल का माइक्रो लेवल का पे आपको मिल जाता है बाउंड्रीज. ठीक है, सो एनीवेज द ऑप्शंस इन दिस वर प्रीटी इजी. बाकी सारे बहुत ब्रॉड थे और ये जोनल मैप ही हमारा एक सबसे लोएस्ट लेवल पे था. ठीक है, सो लेट्स गो टू द नेक्स्ट क्वेश्चन. डेंसिटी ऑफ पॉपुलेशन इन अर्बन एरिया कम्स अंडर द कैटेगरी ऑफ. ओके, सो अब ये हम यहाँ पे हमारे पास नॉमिनल, ऑर्डिनल और ये रेशियो डेटा, इंटरवल डेटा है. डेंसिटी का फॉर्मूला अगर आप देखोगे, पर्सन्स पर स्क्वायर किलोमीटर. So it's found by through a ratio एक तरह से है ना, persons per square kilometer. तो इसलिए we will take ratio data for this. नॉमिनल डेटा मतलब अगर कैटेगरीज में अगर डिवाइड कर पाते तो ऐसा तो हमारा नहीं होता, तो नॉमिनल इज नॉट एन ऑप्शन. ऑर्डिनल, इंटरवल और रेशियो में रेशियो सिंस इट्स अ रेशियो पर्सन्स पॉपुलेशन पर डिवाइडेड बाय एरिया, सो इट्स अ रेशियो डेटा. ठीक है, लेट्स मूव टू द नेक्स्ट वन. The length of a river on the map is measured by, okay, so I think many people will be aware कि ये हमारा wind velocity के लिए होता है. लैक्टोमीटर को हम लोग गेस कर सकते हैं फ्रॉम द वर्ड लैक्टो की है मिल्क से रिलेटेड कुछ होगा. ठीक है, मिल्क का डेंसिटी या फिर ऐसा कुछ नापने के लिए. एंड प्लानीमीटर इज फॉर प्लेन सर्फेसेस. सो आपका जो 2Ds होती है उनको अगर मेजर करना होता है 2D ड्राइंग्स को, तब देन वी यूज प्लानीमीटर. ओपिसोमीटर इज द ओनली ऑप्शन लेफ्ट अगर आप ऐसे एलिमिनेशन से जाओगे तो, बट अदरवाइज ओपिसोमीटर का सेल्फ एक्सप्लेनेटरी नहीं है, बट इट मींस इट इज बेसिकली अ डिवाइस टू यूज टू मेजर. कर्वीमीटर बोलते हैं, कर्व्ड चीजें हम नापते हैं. तो रिवर्स बेसिकली आर कर्व्ड बॉडीज, सो वी यूज ओपिसोमीटर टू मेजर द लेंथ ऑफ द रिवर. ठीक है, नेक्स्ट क्वेश्चन. Non-standards and basic design concepts. 2 questions came from this. Let's see.